Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Paris. If I haven't been able to meet you, and this is my Leader Lab speech. So my life begins halfway around the world in Nanchang, China. At only 3 days old, I was abandoned in a garden by my birth parents. So I'm basically the original Cabbage Patch Kid. Due to China's strict one-child policy, many couples only keep baby boys. This custom promotes the view of the son as a protector and provider for the family. Sons stay with their parents and care for them in their old age, unlike daughters who marry and leave to live with their husband's family. Giving up your child is illegal, so many girls are abandoned, aborted, or left to die. Thankfully, I was found and brought to an orphanage where I spent the first 10 months of my life until my parents adopted me. I was brought home to Davison, Michigan, and grew up as an only child. Being an only child allowed me to build strong and close relationships with my parents. We did everything together, from hiking and biking to traveling around the country. During this time, I was able to establish a solid foundation for our relationship that extends to today. While growing up, I was able to be selective in my relationships with my friends and was never forced into any friendship that I didn't want. I became accustomed to being the center of attention and harnessed my energy from socializing with other people. However, there was always this want of a sibling when I would go over to my friends' homes and see them sharing inside jokes or secrets with their sister or brother. A decade after adopting me, my parents began the adoption process to expand to a family of 4. After hours of paperwork, home studies, background checks, and financial costs, we were finally able to be approved to adopt a 6-year-old girl from China. After all of these years, I was excited to have the opportunity to be able to return to my home country and bring home my sister. On December 25th, 2008, Claire officially became a part of the Paris family. However, after the initial excitement dwindled, I began to have difficulty with this new member in our family. I understood that she needed more attention from my parents by learning a new language, living with unfamiliar people, and coming to a place without anyone she knew. I started to struggle with this transition in our family and began to resent my sister for limiting the time I was able to spend with my parents. As the months wore on, I closed myself off to a relationship with my sister and did not engage with her often. I felt isolated and almost abandoned by my parents, which added to the stress in our family dynamics. My parents, in reaction to my behavior, constantly insisted that I needed to do more activities and talk with Claire. They also tried to spend more time with me separately, but I always felt a distance in connecting with them. I was also battling this internal struggle between the resentment I harbored towards my sister, but also the desire to fix our relationship. As a teenager, I did not know or understand how to communicate in these times of struggle or ask for assistance. That's us. There's another one too. So after about a year after we adopted Claire, I was more accepting of this transition and engaged in a relationship with my sister. This new outlook started when I was finally able to voice my frustrations of the difficulty that I was having to build a relationship with my sister. My parents and I discussed that it needed to be my choice. With this understanding, I finally felt that my parents heard my voice and were able to move forward to develop a more cohesive family. My sister and I bonded over a shared love of watching movies and swimming together. Claire was also more skilled in English and was able to communicate her thoughts and feelings to us. I also began to teach her our family traditions of identifying potassium stones and our love of Thai food. As Claire continued to grow older, we grew closer in our relationship. As we have grown up over the years, we have become more mature and understanding of one another and how similar we actually are. Today, my sister and I have a much closer relationship as family members who will always love and support one another. So the induction of Claire into our family had a profound impact on my life, and specifically on my leadership development. This event helped me develop communication skills, taught me how to build relationships, and fostered self-reflection. Being able to communicate my feelings of frustration and isolation allowed my parents to understand why I was struggling with this adjustment in our family. I had to be able to voice these concerns and learn to ask them for help. I was able to improve my relationship with my parents, as well as my sister, by constantly communicating with one another. Today, I am able to use this skill in my leadership positions on campus. As a third-year resident assistant in the Niemeyer and Calder community, I am on a staff with 10 other RAs, which 5 of them are first years in the position. I am able to discuss and offer advice to my fellow coworkers in times of uncertainty. Also, I am having to constantly communicate with the residents in the community to ensure their mental, physical, and social well-being. From an early age, I've always loved meeting new people and building new friendships. Claire was the first relationship that I had to consciously and wholeheartedly foster and develop. When we first adopted her, we were strangers without a common connection. Over time, though, we have been able to bond closer with our shared interests, passions, and family traditions. When we first adopted her, we were strangers without a common connection. Over time, though, we had been able to bond closer with our shared interests, passions, and family traditions. This skill has resulted in my ability to meet and connect with numerous individuals in my personal and professional life. I love discovering people's experiences and getting to know their background. Especially in CLA, we are exposed to various leaders on campus and in the community. My relationships through this program have led me to new internships, job development, and involvement with other community members in the community. After adopting Claire, I had to undergo major self-reflection on my own personal life. I had to take into account my feelings toward adopting a new sibling and how this changed our family dynamics. I also began to understand that my own adoption was a huge aspect of my life and accepting this as a part of my identity. I had always known that I was adopted at a young age, and my family even celebrates my adoption day as a second birthday each year in honoring my addition to our family. Yet, I did not realize that being adopted and abandoned at a young age had an impact on how I processed my sister's adoption. When preparing this speech, it was very difficult to remember the specifics of Claire's adoption and what events actually transpired. I am very comfortable discussing my entire life with others, but even with my closest friends, I rarely discuss this event in my life. For years, I have felt ashamed and disappointed about this part in my life and have worked to repress these feelings. However, I am proud that I have the opportunity to communicate the lessons of my life and how this first leadership experience has shaped me into the leader you see today. Oh, there's more. That was just at my sister's homecoming, and that's me. So each of us experience these teachable moments in our lives, but do not realize the significance of these special events. For me, I did not realize that I was developing leadership skills at such a young age that would be utilized years later. Sometimes the most unlikely people and experiences will force you to become a leader. For all leaders, we tend to always look for outside opportunities to develop our leadership without recognizing that we can be leaders in every moment in our lives. I would challenge you to think about an event that happened in your life that built your relationship and how you can continue to strive for everyday leadership.
Who has some questions for Rachel?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, how do you think this is going to set you up for the future? Having gone through this sort of crucible in your life, where do you think this takes you for your future leadership opportunities? How do you think that you could apply this to, say, people who are members of your team, subordinates and that kind of thing? How would you apply that?
Definitely. So for me, I'm just going to use an example. As an RA, I've been one for 3 years, so I'm very used to that. So for me, I'm actually using this in my professional development actually on Monday. So Michaela and Pez get to relive this experience in a couple days. But just to share with other people my story, and hopefully they can take away some lessons and be able to kind of see how my life experiences are, but also apply them in their lives as well.
Have you had an honest conversation with your sister who's 17 now?
No, she is 15. Actually, yeah. She was 6 when we adopted her, so she's in high school. She's a freshman, so she just went to homecoming.
Okay, so now she's getting older. Have you had an honest conversation with her about the difficulty you went through when she came? Does she understand that you went through a rough time when she first came?
I think she understood that I was struggling. There were a lot of tears, I'm not gonna lie. There were a lot of tears. But I actually just had a really good conversation with my mom on the phone last night driving home. I was talking about just like what I'm doing tomorrow, and somehow I told her about my speech and stuff like that. And we actually were able to have like a really good conversation on how that was like really hard on me. And we have like when I was younger, when I was like 12 or 13, but not with Claire yet. She's still kind of young a little bit, and I haven't been home for the past 3 years either, so being away at school it has been kind of hard, but we still have been able to like build our relationship. And she's very big into the Snapchat and just got braces, so I just talked to her about that the other day.
What advice would you give others who are maybe also struggling to build relationships with people that they can't connect with but are forced to connect with anyway because of work or family or something like that?
I think like first having the honesty of that self-reflection and, you know, taking that time to process. And of course relationships are difficult. They're not easy. But to me, I think being able to, you know, of course in the workplace, you're going to have to work with them. You don't have to love them, and you don't have to be best friends and, you know, take Snapchats together or whatever. But I think being able to be honest and have that introspection and have that self-reflection time.
Rachel, you said it took you about a year to process after she arrived in your home. Do you feel that it was more internal factors that influenced your desire to turn the relationship around, or was it external factors?
So I think it was kind of both. I had a lot of insistence by my parents, which, I mean, for someone who has been begging to have a sibling for 10 years, you know, they were like, why aren't you loving your sister? But for me, I think it really became my choice. For me, I mean, some people don't have relationships with their siblings who they've grown up with from birth. So for me, I think I finally was able to mature and have that honesty, and, you know, this is my sister. Like, I want to have a relationship with her. Like, we actually are very similar. She's very type B and I'm very type A, but we really, really love spending time together, especially being, like I said, being away for so long. Like, I really haven't seen her grow up, and her starting high school, I just was like, oh my gosh, like, I remember high school, that was only 4 years ago. And just like being able to bond over that shared experience. And I remember like being a freshman and being scared and all those different feelings in adolescence. So especially as we've gotten older, we have really, really blossomed in our relationship.
Well, Rachel, I just want to, let's all give her a round of